Okay, guys, so it's being recorded from now on. Now, before we start, I just want to say that this webinar has been organized for the members of the weekly fasting group, which is a very big international WhatsApp group of individuals who practice weekly fasting, weekly abstinence from food for at least 24 hours, and many people even extend it for more. So if you're watching this video later on and you're interested in this idea for whatever reasons, physical reasons, spiritual reasons, clarity reasons, mental health, etc., you will find my WhatsApp number below this video. My name is Arik and I am the moderator of this group. So you're welcome to send me a WhatsApp message with your name and I will happily add you. And then you will also be able to get some guidance in the group if you're new to fasting. Now, today we have Jess with us again. Namaste, brother.
Namaste. Greetings and blessings, everyone.
Thank you so much. So Jess is conducting a very, very interesting Breatharian spiritual Pranic experiment. He's been doing it for the last more than 3 weeks. So we're going to delve into that with lots of questions. But we will start with a short guided meditation, guys, just to get ourselves grounded and kind of get into here and now so that we're all connected. So Jess, over to you. Please guide us into that meditation.
Greetings, family. Thank you for having me. Today, I would like to share a more simplistic or simplified meditation than last time, and one that I find to be most effective. It's my main meditation, and this is just a heart center meditation. So first, we want to grasp our hands here at the heart center, just to connect in and feel it. And we're simply gonna breathe in through the nose, and you want your in breath to be, maybe 4 seconds and a couple seconds pause, and then a longer out breath. You could do it for 6 or 8, just whatever feels comfortable in your own rhythm. And we're gonna start now, and just follow your breath and center your awareness on your heart center. You can think of whichever deity or God or the sun or someone you love, and just put them in that heart center. And if your mind gets distracted, just come back to your heart. Concentrate on feelings of love and compassion. Don't try to suppress any thoughts, just let them come and go. And recenter on your heart. Your heart is your source and your balance point. It helps to just touch your heart to help bring your awareness to that. Just hold it for 1 or 2 more moments. It's an infinite resource of love. Think about all the people that you love, your animals, the world. And now think of emanating that love, shining it like the sun. And as we close the meditation now, bring your hands back to heart center. And give thanks for one thing or 10 things. Just take a moment, one more moment to find some gratitude for something in this day, someone. All right, thank you, family. You can open your eyes now or kind of drop back out of the meditation. And the heart, I want to just explain real quick that your electromagnetic field emanates from your heart. Your heart was the first organ that formed, and it's actually 60% neural tissue. So this is your better mind, the compassionate mind, the loving mind. So thank you, everybody.
Thank you so much, Jess. Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
Okay, guys, so let's start our webinar. So, Jess, what you have been doing for the last 3 weeks and a half, do you consider it to be your new lifestyle, or you consider it to be a temporary experiment? How do you treat it yourself?
It's my new lifestyle. I'm going 30 to 90 days. Anything you can do 30 or 90 days, 290 days, you can train as a new lifestyle. And to kind of explain the backdrop, I've been raw vegan for 11 plus years and been experimenting with, daily fastings and dry fasting, and then moved to liquidarianism about 4.5 years ago. So on the concept of fasting towards breatharianism, you want to do something on the daily that you can withstand easily, with your normal life challenges. So a lot of people want to try to fast there really quick in a short 10-day retreat, and I would suggest that's a little bit dangerous. That it's better to work with fasting as a practice and diet as a practice and various other practices consistently to grow into a state where you can, do these more prolonged things. So yeah, this is my new lifestyle and working my way towards full pranic. That's where we're at.
Amazing. And for the people who haven't been following you, could you please describe the framework in which you're doing it?
Yeah, I mean, it started for me where I was, I'm a permaculturalist and a herbalist, and I was eating organic, but it was kind of standard American, and I started having all kinds of difficulties with my digestion, my energy, and having intolerances to gluten and dairy, and so I started working with raw foods, and doing a smoothie every morning was the beginning of my liquid phase, and eventually the other thing that came in was sun gazing at that time, and retraining my practice of meditation, because I've been a Buddhist for about 27 years, but I fell out of practice being, going to college and then also being a young father. So I brought meditation back in, and I had heard about sun gazing from HRM, who is an Indian. He's actually an engineer, but he's brought back an ancient practice of sun gazing the first hour or last hour of the day. And you start with 10 seconds at a time, 10 seconds the first day, and then 20 seconds the next day. And, all of this was to reclaim my physical and mental health, and spiritual health. And so since then, other practices came in, Qigong, and I started working with dry fasting more. Yes, someone noted HRM has passed away. Yes, indeed, he passed this last year. But you know, he helped a lot of people, and he was quasi pranic himself. He went for a great extended period in a hospital, you know, as while they reviewed his biology, and you know, people give him flack because he ate food. They found him at a buffet and stuff like that, and that's something to, you know, be wary of on this path. You know, is that you gotta follow your mental and emotional and physical needs, and that, you know, to never be hard on yourself or hard on someone else when you don't meet your ideal, you know. But whatever the case, so I was working with those things. I also came into grounding, being barefoot on the earth, and doing Qigong. I got transmission from Eli Tam Alamin, who many people know as one of the great Breatharians of our day. And he came and taught with me here. There are other things like sexual temperance, being aware that the expenditure of your sexual energy, much like, you know, as a gardener, I see this with plants and trees. Like when you get a new fruit tree, you want to pick the blossoms the first year that it's in the ground so it doesn't create fruit, because then it can root in better and it has more longevity. And that expenditure of our sexual energy is meant to create more life, but at the expenditure of our own life. So it was a combination of all these things, and I've learned a lot of really fascinating things along the way about the physics and of all this, and how this all works in the body. And I kind of through other teachers and through occult science, and also just my own path being a gardener, I've learned to work with the angels of earth, wind, fire, and water to create health and greater, you know, health is really dependent on electricity in the body and radiation, and that illness is usually dissonance of electromagnetic frequency, so that we're energy beings first and foremost, that your atoms are all buzzing around, and this electromagnetic field that emanates from your heart organizes all your energy systems. So that's why I wanted to bring in the heart meditation, because when you can have a resonant field with your own heart and mind, you're just in greater health in all ways. It's been a practice of consistency with all these things for years and years, every single day. So that's kind of as short as I could put.
Wonderful, Jess. Thank you so much. So what have you actually been doing for the last 3 weeks and a half or something like that, that was different from what you had been doing previously?
Well, the last 4.5 years I've been doing like 95% liquids and dry fasting 16 to 20 hours a day. So I had, you know, a 6 or 8 hour window where I would consume whatever liquids I wanted. And sometimes I'd have some salty snacks or some like seaweed, or I would have, that's another very important part of this path, is growing into your health through proper nutrition. But, you know, I would sometimes also, if I was cooking something vegan for the family, making something for them, I would take a bite. Now it's 23 hours dry fasting every day, and all liquids for that hour. And I've found that I sleep a whole lot less. I sleep about 4 to 6 hours a night now, and that allots me time to meditate for a couple hours in the morning every morning, which is really the foundation of this practice. It's the breath creates electricity in the body, but it also stabilizes the mind, so that you're not losing your energy to stresses and, you know, mental thought forms that perturb you. Even excitation about something, you know, you love can be something that kind of can undo your energy. So it's, you know, been very balancing. I feel a lot more, I don't know, I'm a triple Aries and I've always been a bit hyperactive, and I feel a little bit more subdued and at ease through this. So and also before I was, you know, having things like salty miso broths, and salt can be really damaging to the body. And now I'm, you know, primarily doing my superfood juices, melon juice, goji berry tea, and kombucha. Those are like my mainstays, and it's hard to drink more than about a gallon or so in an hour. So that, you know, that's the nice thing. I've got plenty of energy. That's another important part of this path is exercise. Exercise creates energy in the body, and your muscles are like batteries for your system, and just the movement itself and the oxygenation and gathering water from the atmosphere. So yeah, that's the main difference, is just my time window shrank from 6 to 8 hours to 1 hour. And so thereby I'm consuming a lot less, and I have less occasion, you know, to try nibbling on this or that or having more drinks. You know, it's kind of a limited amount of drinks, and so my BMs are smaller, and you know, it's just easier on the whole system for me, and I just love it. It's something that, you know, I feel greater clarity on. I also have been a long time lover of cannabis. It was something that was a key part of me becoming an herbalist and getting feeling a more direct connection with spirit and nature, and that left me, and so I haven't been doing that for this entire fast, and I don't see that I'll be doing it anymore. My dream time is a lot more vivid and very interesting. I'll say. Been exploring dream tantra, which is a Tibetan yogic path, with the whole idea of being awake while dreaming and dreaming while awake. So lucid dreaming is, you know, sort of one of the practices as well that's been coming in a greater way. It's been something I've been doing for years to get greater connection with my own heart and my own subconscious mind. And all of it is in order to sort of, you know, hack consciousness and open up the Bodhi mind, that loving, compassion, wisdom mind that is your heart. So
awesome. And so which amounts of liquids do you consume during this 1 hour of consumption?
it's usually I do about a quart of melon juice. I do 20 ounces of the Power Shake from the superfood company I work with, which if anyone's ever interested in that, I highly suggest them. They're really, it's this thing of getting your body alkaline and also getting dense nutrition to your cells so they're more electric. It's all an electricity game, you know, so grounding on the earth, gathering the negative ions. From there, breath work, exercise for electricity, the sun for electricity on your skin and in your eyes, and then alkalizing your body and cleansing the cells and giving them the nutrition they need, the dense nutrition without the draw on digestion. Because a lot of the foods we actually take more out of our body energetically. It takes more energy to metabolize them than we get from them. So that's a nice thing about biophotonic rich foods, raw foods, and particularly fruits. And another key part is your waters. So I was mentioning before this thing of well, I want to answer your question more directly before I continue. But so I do about a quarter.
Yeah. Just also we have lots of people who are outside of US, so they're used to another metric system. So I would love us to maybe later on we will have to translate somehow because it's an interesting question, you know. So
Yeah. So
yeah.
a quart is about 8 cups.
Okay. Okay.
So I think that's a liter, if I'm correct.
So I will check meanwhile while you're talking. I will check in the dictionary. So okay.
So I do a quart of melon juice, a quart of goji berry tea, sweetened with a little maple syrup. I have my 20-ounce power shake. I'm also taking hydrogen water, which is water that's infused with more hydrogen gas, and it's very confident. And I'm going to get into the thing about waters in a minute after I finish your question.
Yeah.
And then I'll do a D days kombucha just about every day, just because I love them. And then more oftentimes than not, I'll have some hot tea after that.
Okay.
I really like Thai tea with maybe a little nut milk. And so that's been my dailies. Sometimes I'll have grape juice or orange juice. You know, there's particular juices that are going to be easier on the system and also more hydrating and more alkalizing, like the melons, grapes. I would kind of stay away from things that are a little more sugary, like pineapple, but you know, that's fairly good too. Sometimes I'll do like grape celery juice or grape apple juice. But
okay. Yeah, so just so first of all, I looked it up. Yeah, so you were right. Quart is about 1 liter. So you mentioned in total, it would be more or less like 1 gallon or something like that.
Yeah, so I would say 4 to 5 liters daily.
Yeah, okay, that's good. Yeah. Many people are okay. So then we had a question related to that from one of our group members, and she says, Jess, I love your 23-hour a day dry fast plan for 90 days. You're a huge inspiration to me. And then there is a question, do you find it difficult to drink that much in 1 hour? Does it make you feel really full? Does it stress your kidneys or doesn't it stress your kidneys? So that's the question.
Yeah, that is a very good question. I have run into that. It's like I just went on a camping trip for my anniversary to Colorado, and the first night we were there, we ran into some neighbors synchronistically, and it was right during my hour, and kind of gave me a little bit of angst, a little bit of stress, because I wanted to talk with them, but I also wanted to enjoy my meal. And so I found that I really have to sit for this hour kind of in meditation, almost just being with my meal primarily. It was fine, but I drank them too hurriedly, and it didn't feel very good, you know.
Okay.
So 4 or 5 liters is a lot to drink. Definitely. It's something that I think it's, part of the path of working with fasting is understanding, that we eat and drink things for other reasons besides nutrition, that oftentimes it's social anxiety, sadness, a million reasons. It's just a social thing to get together and consume things together. And so, and I know with my grandfather and my father, they were total overeaters. And I think, a lot of that emotional eating was going on and translated to me. So I like the feel of being full, and I like to enjoy lots of flavors. you know. So I feel like I could do half as much and be content and be fine. But for now, it's what's, you know, it's this thing like I was talking about a moment ago of like, you have to meet your spiritual, emotional, physical need and psychological needs as you're working with fasting. And you kind of got to wrap up these things slowly. Been listening to Hilton Hotima. If anyone hasn't heard Hilton Hotima's Man's Higher Consciousness, I highly suggest that book. It's really good. And he talked about how we're all naturally breatharians, you know, that this is an air, gas, you know, driven electricity machine, and that we there's something that the ancients called, you know, the vital adaptation, that our bodies are so strong that we can adapt to all kinds of things. So that's why when someone is on medications or addicted to opium or opiates or something, you can't just take them away. They can die from that. Similarly with food, you can't just take it away. You can die. You have to, and if you've been eating for 40, 50 years or however long, you need segue time to move your body back gently to prana. So that's why, you know, I say I think it's dangerous to try to quickly move yourself into breatharianism, that it's something that you should give yourself plenty of time to do. I've taken 12 years to get this far, you know, so it's not something you rush. You want to be gentle on your body and gentle on your mind. So I don't find any trouble with my kidneys. I do feel like I could do less, but for now it's suiting me very well. Still have great energy, you know, to do everything that I do in my life. I garden, you know, at least 4 days a week. I exercise every single day in some way, shape, or form, a walk, bike ride, some calisthenics, or some weightlifting. I do, you know, I work in the garden. You know, when I work in the garden, it's usually 5 hours or more, and that's pretty intensive. Especially we've been dealing with in New Mexico here, the weather has just changed, but we were having like days of between 95 and 100 degrees. There were forest fires, wind. And so you have to be mindful of your energy while you work, and you have to, you know, get yourself in the shade sometimes. And, you know, the whole practice is about learning to listen in a greater way to your body and your consciousness, and really honor your feeling sense. So.
Wow. Awesome. Jess, and I have a question. So do you have the drinking window at a particular time every day, at a certain time, or you shift it according to your needs?
I would shift it because it keeps the body more adaptable, but I do it between 5:30 and 6 every day. Mostly because at the end of a day of gardening and being out in the elements and stuff, I want to be able to come home and have, you know, some nice thing and sit with my family as I do that. I've been going from 5:30 to 6:30 every day, and it's a very key question on timing, because you should really consume anything you want to consume between, you know, I would say 9 in the morning and 8 at night, but that the best time of day would be 12 noon. You know, that's when your digestion is at its highest. That's when you're going to get the most out of it. And after about 8 o'clock, your body's circadian rhythm basically turn off your digestion. And I know so many people who love to eat after 8, but then while you're sleeping, your body's trying to digest. So energy is going to digestion rather than sleep and rejuvenation. So, and before, you know, they say the body actually does its greatest detox between like 7 and 11 in the morning. So, you know, that's what I was doing previously was, you know, I would quit between 6 and 8 in the evening, and I wouldn't take anything until the next morning between 10 and 12, you know. And that gave me at first the more pliability for my lifestyle, but now that I'm accustomed to that, it just, and that's been the other thing in terms of just following the body. This just came naturally. I got inspired by listening to Hilton Otima, and I started with one day of like, I'm just going to do a 24-hour drive fast. And then it just was like, I'm going to do that again tomorrow. And then I was just like, okay, I'm going to go, 30 to 90 days, just because I'm going to shoot for that and see what happens.
Mm-hmm.
And so far it's been easy and totally, pleasurable to me. So I don't foresee stopping.
Yeah, cool. So I just want to reiterate. So you're saying that in terms of digestion, the digestion fire is the strongest around noon, right? That's what you said. But in your case, if I got it right, because of the family reasons, you don't do it at noon. You do it towards the evening because you want to be with your family and you want to drink something with your family. Is that correct?
That's right. That and a treat at the end of the day of work,
I see.
treat
And
myself with something.
yeah, and tell me, Jess, so after you drink these amounts of juices, etc., don't you feel this sugar spike and then sugar going down, leaving you without energy? Like from your personal experience, you do not experience something like that?
No, not really.
Mm-hmm.
The one thing that is a bit of a bother is it keeps me up all night peeing, so that interrupts sleep a little bit, but I don't have much trouble with that. I can fall back asleep rather quickly.
Mm-hmm.
But given my life circumstances with my family and my work and stuff, it's that thing that if you're moving towards this, you need to find ways to, integrate with your normal day-to-day life.
Yeah.
The usual stresses. You got to be able to manage them in a way that's suitable for you. So, some people might have a easier time with that, doing it in the middle of the day with work and what have you. But I find, it's something I noticed a long time ago doing gardening work, that even when I was doing raw, if I stopped and took a minute to just to eat, then my energy would plummet because everything would go to digestion.
Yeah,
Now
absolutely.
if I just rest while my wife works with me, and she'll have lunch and I'll just sit and rest, and that actually gives me more energy to go back out and do some more.
Okay, yeah, I got it, absolutely. And then when you have your family meals in the end of the day, does it tempt you to see your other family members eating solid food and you are just with your drinks, or you do not get tempted?
Not anymore. I used to. That's part of part of getting emotionally adjusted. It's one of these things of like, because food is such a social matter, we make these like connections with it. And at first it was really hard for me, even when I moved to raw food, when the rest of my family eats, whatever they like, they eat meat, they eat cooked, I eat as much raw as they'll let me give them,
Okay.
but it's I was already disentangling from them in that way to begin with, because I knew that I needed to follow this path for myself, and to sort of take away that there's something in human consciousness. I don't know, I sort of feel like it's been inculcated into us that we have to have like that's something that's good for me, you got to do too, and we got to be together on it, but you can just sit, it's interesting practice to just sit with your family while they're eating, and just be with them and be content in the connection of having your family, or your friends, so at first it was hard, but over time, and then moving to liquidarianism, it was like another level of that, especially if you try to go out to eat somewhere, you know, with company, that it's hard to find, you know, a place where you can get, you know, some good juices or, you know, stuff like that, unless you can convince everybody to go to a juice bar or something, you know. So it's nice to have community in that, you know, and that's what I appreciate about, you know, joining this circle and various other circles, you know, is, you know, to be able to share that, that joy of that thing. But, you know, that's a way to manage it, you know, is to find other ways outside of these relationships, you know, so that you can, you know, be with them while they're doing their thing and you're doing your thing, and it isn't a thing. So that's a super good question, because that was a massive trial in general. And now I'm so accustomed to being liquidarian over the last 4.5 years that just shrinking my window is simplistic, but I feel like my body had to be there too. I wasn't quite ready until now, you know. So
yeah, Jess, and in terms of your other family members, could you say that they are used to seeing you just with the drinking all the time, or every now and then they still try to suggest for you to eat anything else, like solid food and stuff like that?
I weird some people out sometimes. My family, my immediate family have all come to accept my path fully, you know, and you know, honor it for what it is. I definitely, like, just a week ago, I guess it was about a week ago, we had Father's Day here in the States, just an honoring of the fathers. And so we went over to the larger family's place for dinner, and I had my bunch of drinks, and they were like, "That's all you're having, you know, and sure you don't want some of this?" And I was like, no. So it's a practice in boundaries too, of knowing what's good for you and being able to clearly, compassionately convey your boundary of, like, this, I'm doing this, you know, I'm doing this long extended fast, and just juices, so this is my dinner, you know. And they might roll their eyes or, you know, whatever, but you just got to let them, you know, and you know, and they'll come to accept you, but not if you bend and then you have, you know, hard feelings and all that kind of thing. It's an important, I feel like it's important training and being more honoring of one another in our uniqueness, in that way, because everybody has something like that, you know.
Absolutely.
Yes,
Jess. Yeah, and because you have lots of experience in this lifestyle, you've probably encountered many instances when people try to either ask you weird questions or try to suggest that you do something else. So maybe you could elaborate a little bit, in terms of these interpersonal relationships, how to explain your point of view in a gentle way, or, you know, how to stick to your path regardless of what other people want you to do, in a gentle and loving way. Because I think it's relevant to many of our members, regardless whether they're raw foodists, liquidarians, vegans, whatever.
Yeah. On the one hand, you have to stay firm in it, you know, but on the other hand, you also have to be a little bit pliable, I would say, you know, to give yourself an occasion here or there, you know, if it feels right, you know. It's good to kind of flex both ends of that thing, so that you can be firm in your boundaries and your decision and your commitment to yourself and what does it for you, but not inflexible. So that's key. That, and always, it's something I strive for as best I can, to not make it personal, and to be nonviolent with your communication. And just simply, you may have to repeat yourself, but just repeat yourself calmly, and coolly as best you can. It can be irritating, certainly, but that's another thing with the boundary, and not taking it personally,
Uh-huh.
and starting and trying to um, find that place of understanding that they're just trying to understand you and whatever it is you're doing, and it's kind of an affront to what they're used to and what they've been, you know trained to and living with their entire life, and see as like a necessity. And most often than not, the reasons why they will be pressing you to join them, or maybe kind of irritated by what you're doing, is they have concern for you. you know
Mm.
they really just want to know that you're okay, and that you're doing okay, and you're not hurting yourself. And just have to reassure them that, yeah, I'm okay, this feels great, I'm doing well, and this is what I like. And you know um and it's there's a lot of vegans and such who want to, like I was saying, there's something about human nature that wants this sort of hegemony of everyone to be doing the same thing. It's like tribal psych.
Right, right.
um but to you know and a lot of vegans will be attacking people who are eating meat or whatever, and that's no way to win them over. But if you can just live and demonstrate with good energy where you're at, and show how good your health is, then that's way more attractive, in terms of bringing people in. And I
Yeah.
really feel like this is interesting subject, because a big part of many of us as vegans, and breatharians and liquidarians move into this partly from a heart space of ahimsa, or compassion for animals, and not wanting to harm animals. And that was definitely the case with me. And Hilton Hotima, I'm going to reference again, because what he put forth is in line with the research I've done over the years. And that's um, that meat is actually higher nutritionally on the scale than things like uh, pastas and grains, or even a lot of the vegetables, because in anthropology there's something they call the grassicalization of the species. When we went from being hunter-gatherers to really, it was more gatherer hunters in those days. There was a lot more vegetable food than there was meat to begin with. But when we moved to agricultural sedentary lifestyle, our skeletons shrunk, our cranial capacity shrunk, we became less robust, and probably shorter lifespans. Um, and the thing with a lot of vegetables is they're so high in mineral that they start to crystallize uh, on the inside, and salt and all these things. Whereas, meat is actually higher on nutritionally than a lot of those things. Fruit and nuts is the highest, and that it's highest in biophotons, highest in living water, nutrient density. It's closer to prana, but I have a lot of native friends, and almost everyone around me is meat eaters. And I dare any raw vegan to look at a native elder in the eye and tell them that they're evil for eating meat.
Of course.
It
Yeah.
doesn't make any sense when you're in that situation.
Mhm.
but I think that we're all breatharians, and I think that's actually, there's anecdote, like maybe the story from the Bible where Adam and Eve ate the fruit and were kicked out of the Garden of Eden. That was like akin to, when we first started consuming things again. I believe in our distant past, we were the temple, the pyramid builders, that we were all pranic, all psychic, and all of that is latent powers within us that are reawakening at this time.
Mhm.
And so from there we went on down the scale, and it's even worse now because of the industrialization of everything and the pollution in the air, the importance of the breath, and is a big reason why I'm passionate about gardening. I believe we got to garden the planet, no matter what your eating style or source of energy comes from. If we take on this more nurturing, appreciative way of living and doing it with these higher vibration foods, it will just lead us there naturally. So then moving on to liquids is higher than that, and then just the breath. So, it's
Okay,
very intriguing.
absolutely. Just so this leads me to the next question. So with your current lifestyle, do you feel that you get most of your nutrients from food or from other sources such as breathing, prana, or all of them?
I think it's from breathing and prana. And I've been talking with a lady who is a clinician and research scientist, and we've been having this great discussion about, she says that only 1 to 2/3 at very best do we get from the ATP that we derive from food. That mostly what you get is from UVA sunlight and infrared, as well as from, if you ground. And then there's this whole thing about the cultivation of your waters. So she talks about the exclusion zone water, which is a 4th phase of water that is around every living cell and it's in your skin and everything. And your exclusion zone water is like a liquid crystalline jelly. And on one side, there's a positive charge, and the other side is a negative charge. And so it's essentially a battery. So as you're developing your body back to prana through breath work, through sun gazing, being in the sun, grounding on the earth, and cultivating your waters, you can get more and more of what you need. Hilton Hotima talks about this too, just the atoms and the ions and photons and things that create minerals and things in your body that you need. And I really feel like there's been many days actually along this fast where I didn't feel like I could have gone beyond and not eaten anything that day, or drinking rather anything that day. But it's something that Ellie Tom trained me in. We're beings of pleasure and beings of habit, and what's pleasurable we habituate to. And if you can keep consistency on a thing, you'll grow. So some of us are consistent with bad habits, but it's still consistency. And if it will kind of lead you like it did with me. My bad habits led me to a state of illness that caused me to change my habits intentionally and then consistently practice good habits that led me to here. So it's a lot of people are, we're so fixed kind of culturally across the world on the end product and not the process. And the process is, really the juicy part, and it's like, when you go on a trip, half the fun is actually in going on the trip if you don't make a stress of it,
Yeah.
So enjoy the journey, in other words.
Absolutely, Jess. And then you mentioned ATP. I'm just not familiar with this term. What does it stand for? ATP?
Adenamine triphosphate, I think is what it is. And that's how your body, when you eat food, your body breaks it down and extracts energy from it, electricity. These there's like I think it's called the ion transport chain, which is something in the body that just moves this electricity around, whether it's from food or otherwise. And we've just habituated to food because it's pleasurable.
Okay.
So there's all these other forms of energy that we can start to cultivate through these different practices, Qigong, yoga, meditation,
Yeah.
joy practice, doing something you love, you know, can
Mhm.
actually give you energy. Relationships can give you energy, you know,
Yeah.
if they're cultivated appropriately, you know. So
Mhm.
um,
Yeah, Jess, absolutely. Do you give any significance at all to the nutritional density of the liquids that you consume, or it doesn't bother you at all?
you know, like I was saying before, so that's part of the way toward the prana, is to give yourself the very best nutrition. And the thing about juicing and superfoods is you're giving it to your body in such a way that your body can digest it in about 10 minutes, and your cells just really suck all that stuff up, and it makes them buzz with electricity. So it's just getting them entrained to that, you know, and then slowly moving to less dense, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So I do attach some importance to it, because, you know, it's that whole thing of vital adjustment. You gotta get your body attenuated to the prana and
Okay.
tuned to it by cleansing. There's so much environmental toxicity, you know, that we've all accumulated through, you know, there's like, you know, nuclear testing, there's industrial pollution, there's, you know, chemical agriculture, and
Mm-hmm.
we're being at the top of the food chain, so to speak. We bioaccumulate this more than any other organism.
Yeah.
So we have a responsibility to clean that up,
Mm.
and you have to take the time, both physically but also in the world, to do that. So
Mm-hmm.
I think that's kind of the call that I'm feeling now, you know, is just to help people make this transition to, you know, breatharianism, and to heal the land and the water and the air, you know, as a priority, so
Yeah.
that we can, you know, have this amazing experience of basically heaven on earth.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Okay, Jess. So then we have this question in the chat from Sema, and then she says, do you think you can sustain this way for years?
Definitely. I think I don't know how long I'll hold it. Actually, I think I will move into full pranic. It's just a matter of, like I was saying, following my body and my emotions, and feeling when the time is right, you know. Like I was also saying, I think I could probably consume half as much as I do right now, but it's just like satiating that sense of like, I got to have some this and some that, and I like my kombucha, and, you know, until, like, your food it's like a relationship, you know. You may have a really good relationship with a friend, or, you know, a romantic partner, but sometimes at some point that relationship sort of finishes up, and it's not that, you know, things went bad. It's not that you know, anything other than you have to move on. There's just an inclination to move on. And same with your food. Like, if you're fasting and moving toward prana or whatever, but you still just wish you could have that chocolate, it's gonna come at some point. You're gonna break down and you're gonna get into it, you know. So
Yeah.
till you wrapped up those emotions and wrapped up those feelings with it, you know, and then you'll be able to let it go. But, you know, not to rush it. You know, I really preach like the gentle path, you know, and the slow path. There's no
Yeah.
hurry. um and there's every reason to be gentle with yourself all along the way, and just try to have a good time, you know, and
Mm.
do your best, and know that, you know, if you backslide, you just start again tomorrow, you know. So I definitely feel like this is going to be the new way for me, and I don't know how long, but um it's I intend to go. I put on my post the other day, 90 days to infinity, you know, depending on what comes in, you know, after that. But that's been the whole process for me. When I started working with sun gazing and raw foods and juicing, like breakfast just left. I wasn't like, I just didn't feel like having breakfast, you know, and I would break fast later in the day at like 12 or 1. It wasn't an intention. It wasn't something that I planned out or sorted out ahead of time. It just happened that way. Also, along the way, things I was abusing were leaving me. Early in my raw journey, you know, alcohol left me, you know, and like I was just explaining, cannabis has left me, you know, and I don't foresee it coming back, though I don't know for sure. But it's one of those things that I just have a sense of because of, you know, going this way. Just like the same with the relationship thing, you know, like if there's a relationship and it's just, you're just not getting energy from it. You're not, there's, you may love that person dearly, but it just has to fall away, you know? So it's all a process of becoming, you know, and moving into our higher self, which is, I think, is our inner child, you know? And I think of the Breatharian state, like I've noticed this very palpably when I first was working with fasting and just juicing, just how much more naturalistically I could breathe, you know, like a baby does. A baby breathes in an ideal way, fully opening their diaphragm, you know, and getting deep, full, relaxed breath through the nose, you know. And so it's, you know, it's going forward, you know, in evolution, but it's also in a way, you know, going back to your child self. Sorry about my dog.
Okay, cool, very inspiring. Okay, guys, so if you have any questions for Jess, please unmute yourself and ask.
Svetlana says, how do we become better aware of our bodies? I would say, you know, meditation is the foundation of this whole practice. It's the most important thing you can do. And, you know, all the fasting and all those things are great, but it's this whole thing of dialing in. This is the highest tech in the universe, or at least here on Earth, is your human body. But we, you know, we've exteriorized all our senses, and you have to turn them in and listen to our insides. And that is a practice of mindfulness, mindful awareness that you start to develop. It's a skill set that you develop so that you're becoming more aware of your emotion and your body. And I would also think of, so you then take that mindful awareness practice to the table. You know, when you sit to eat, you know, you can slowly, you know, try something. I remember this when I first got into raw food, and very much was key part of learning herbalism too. Like I would sit with a, you know, first with my raw food, I'd have my salad, you know, or whatever, and I could feel how that felt differently energetically in my body than fruits, and how those felt different than nuts, you know, in my body, and when I needed what. And then with herbs, like I would sit with one herb and you know, just taste it and take it in and see if I could feel in my body which organ it might be hitting, you know, the flavor, you know, there's the 5 flavors of sweet, salty, bitter, sour, sweet, salty, bitter, pungent, and sour. And those all do different things in the body. Bitter activates digestion and is detoxifying, you know. Salty is grounding, sweet is energizing, you know. Sour is astringent. It like tightens and tones tissue. So you can start to just develop your awareness through meditation, and then bring that mindfulness to the table when you sit to eat. You can also bring that mindfulness to your fasting practice. I heard some people are dry fasting and stuff like that. If you get up and you get a little lightheaded, or you feel a little more, you know, hungry, take some deep breaths through your nose. and feel the difference that you feel in your body, you know, or go stand outside in the sun and in the air and notice how I notice this very palpably. You know, when I go out in the morning to sun gaze, we leave our windows open all night and we get good air. But when I go outside, it's like I'm being nourished on a whole nother level, you know? Um, so there's ways to develop that awareness for sure. Anything else?
Wow. Okay, guys, do you have any more questions?
Hi, good evening.
Hi again. Good to see you.
Good to see you. Well, you're saying very inspiring thing, a lot of inspiring things. I liked your different analogies you made. And also you said something about like that, that was interesting, that meat or animals and animal products are better than vegetables, certain vegetables or vegan foods. Could you be more specific? Like,
well, I still, you know, that's something I have a bit of confusion on, because I still feel like those vegetables, you know, are higher, you know, in vibration. They definitely, if you're eating raw, it's higher in biophotons and in water. So I still suggest, you know, the vegan route ahead of the meat. But it's that thing of, you have to be weary of the vegetables because they have, like, for instance, everything in the tomato family, like potatoes, those are nightshades. You know, it's something I've learned through herbalism. Everything has a toxicology or some toxicity to it, you know, and particularly vegetables are high in minerals, which, you know, we think of minerals as being a good thing, but excessive minerals that can't be cleansed by the kidneys and liver will start to concretize as crystals. And this is, you know, there's been a great, you know, sort of emphasis put on the importance of calcium, but calcium will start to develop things like bone spurs, you know, and that, you know, and also the overuse of salt. This starts to like burn the body and crystallize the body. So that's where raw fruits and juices are higher, because they start to wash out, you know, in distilled water or urine therapy. You start to take some of the mineral out of your body, you know.
are you talking about what kind of salt?
Any kind of salt. Any kind of salt.
Even, not the artificial salt, the natural salt.
So it's that thing of levels and degrees. So table salt with iodized table salt is, you know, the worst type of salt. Then you have, you know, like your Himalayan salt and your sea salts and stuff like that, which are much better. But if you can limit, reduce, or eliminate salt from your diet, it will help you.
Yeah, eliminated salt. But are you talking about natural salts in the vegetable? Like, but I eat a lot of tomatoes, cherry tomatoes, because of the salt.
Tomatoes are actually one of the better, because it is a fruit, you know. It's one of the better vegetables that you can eat. But there's people like my mother-in-law can't do any chili, potatoes, tomatoes. She has like an allergic reaction, you know. So a lot of these allergies are pointing out, you know, what's not working for us. I think you're fine to eat tomatoes, and I don't mean to cause any concern for people. It's just more about raising awareness towards breatharianism. You know, you want to start to cleanse excessive minerals out of the body.
You're talking about natural.
I'm thinking more of things like, you know, broccoli and kale, and those things are still very, very nutritious, very good things to take in. But it's this thing of, you know, as Elitom would say, all foods are toxic. They're all drugs. They all have chemicals in this that influence our psychology, and they all have this similarly to the opiate addict, that if you take them straight off of it they'll die. We have been accustomed to the chemical, the phytochemicals in foods that keep us coming back, and if you have too much of that because you just linger on it, it's gonna start to affect you adversely because of this accumulation that happens over time, over 40 years. It's not going to hurt you in a week or a month, or but you do it for several decades, and then you can start to develop problems. So
And you're talking about raw vegetables, not?
yeah, I mean, even raw vegetables, to me, it in my heart of hearts, I see it as grains and dairy and all that is the worst, and then meat, and then veg, and then fruit and nuts, and then juices, and then just prana, sort of like the pyramid back to pranic life. Like I said before, just because the water content and the biophotonic content of vegetables, but that's something Hilton Hotima pointed out that made me kind of think, because most of our vegetables too, you have to realize, we hybridized out of wild predecessors, to be, more juicy and more, and more flavorful and everything, but not necessarily more healthy.
The vegetables.
So if working with wild foods, or if you think about fruit just comes from the tree, and there's been a lot of hybridization definitely of fruits, but less so than the vegetables, so it's been tampered with, in other words. And so the phytochemistry is, if you think about our predecessors as gatherer hunters or whatever, that they were mostly eating vegetal foods, but they were wild foods and fruits, a lot of berries, nuts, seeds primarily, and then greens and other herbs as well. And a lot of those herbs, they use what I'm calling superfoods. That's the company I work with, like we offer superfoods, but they're things like grass juice. Grass juice is super alkalizing, super nutritious. It does feel confusing, and it's something I'm still teasing apart, but it definitely,
Food chain, or whatever, the food chain.
yeah, well, and the tampering and the industrialization of food, has really changed food a lot. So you go to the grocery store and you'll find like broccoli and Brussels sprouts and kale and cabbage and cauliflower. Those are only one type of food. That's all mustard. That's all a mustard plant that's been hybridized. So we're not getting that diversity that people used to get, and not as much focus on nuts and berries, and fruits, and that those things are really more core and important for our nutrition, the way I understand it. And the way
Nuts, I hear that they're not so good. It's hard to digest because they're very concentrated with protein and fat. So nuts are also nuts and seeds.
Yeah. So that with nuts and seeds, it's good to soak and sprout them. Otherwise, they have anti-nutrients that will take, nutrient out of your body. But similar with like the like I was saying with like cabbages and broccoli and all that one family, they have goitrogens. So if you eat too much raw goitrogens, they inhibit your thyroid functioning. So that's where you're really listening to your own body and making your way there, because I believe all food can be medicine, except for, of course, like your industrialized McDonald's hamburger or whatever.
Plastic and chemicals, yeah.
Yeah. And I just, I mentioned the meat thing because I have a lot of friends, like I said, who are native, or like there's this guy, Jared Casey, who's a friend of mine, and he just eats veg, fruit, and meat, but he's doing all the other pranic practice, and he's got great health, though I see his mental health isn't as good, because and it could be the meat. He also had a very hard childhood. He went through a lot. He was orphaned. So that's this emotional component. We have to honor all the different parts and be not judgmental of one another, that we're all figuring out our healing path as we go, and that, I definitely feel you, heart of hearts. Like I said, I think raw veg is above meats, definitely. But, can I say that for anyone else? No. I can say that for myself.
Yeah, because many cook, just like you're saying, grains pass through bread. It's maybe at the bottom of even though it is vegan.
Even though it's vegan.
Yeah, so it's the bottom.
Or tofu. Tofu used to be used by Oriental people, but they traditionally prepared it always fermented, and not so much. They didn't lean on it as a protein source, and protein is kind of the problem. Your body can make protein out of greens or sugars from fruit. If you eat meat or fats, your body has to turn it into sugars before your body can even use it. So it's that thing of like too much protein leads to degenerative disease.
It's not good for the kidneys. Uric acid.
Exactly. It makes every cell bathe in ammonia and uric acid. So it's inflammation, so that's this whole thing of like grounding, hydrogen, water. That's the other thing. In fruits, it has this H3O2, has that hydrogen rich water that builds that exclusion zone water in your body. So it's about, and it's anti-inflammatory, and pretty much every disease is inflammation, so it's about developing the electricity and decreasing the inflammation with all the different kinds of practices you can. And that meditation is a key one, because stress can make you acidic,
to make the body alkaline. It's amazing, all these webinars. Arik, I want to thank you. I enjoy all these webinars, all these all this wisdom, all this knowledge. It's just amazing. Really enjoyed listening to that, and it's just it's amazing how much toxicity we can take. We're so, especially nowadays, just like you said, with the radiation, with pollution, with everything, GMOs, especially nowadays. It's amazing how much the body can, vaccination, amazing how much the body can take. So
yep, we're really vital beings, and we just got to develop this awareness to have the things that aren't causing us to be more vital fall away. That's what I feel like fasting is a great practice in all forms, and what we take in with our eyes and ears is just about as important as what we take in through our mouth.
You mean like the information, the kind of,
yes,
basically the information.
Yeah, information, media, movies, things, what we listen to, what we see, what we put our eyes on. If we put our eyes on a tree, you're going to get way more benefit than you are from watching your cell phone.
That's brainwashing.
Yeah,
it's amazing, to learn all these things, and I'm just amazed.
Yeah.
I always appreciate your excitement and your smile when you join on this calls. Nice. What's your name again?
Revital.
Rivital. All right.
It's an Israeli name, yeah.
Okay. Pleasure. Pleasure as always.
It's reminiscence of revitalized, maybe.
Yeah.
In
That's why I
Hebrew.
did. That's why I didn't know if it was your name or not, but that's so fitting. Revital.
Yeah.
That's where we're going.
Okay, guys, do you have any more questions for Jess? You're welcome to unmute yourself and just ask your question.
Anybody?
Yeah.
Don't
okay,
be shy.
Jess, then towards the end, we will talk a little bit about the services you provide and you know, how people can contact you. But I just have few questions in relation to nature in general, because you have been in touch with nature, researching nature and natural things. So I wanted to ask you, first of all, if it is possible, in your opinion, to do animal agriculture in a sustainable way, because there is a great debate between carnivore people and vegan people. Vegan people say, no, you cannot do that. There is not enough space on earth. But then the carnivore people or meat-based people, they say, no, it's the vice versa, because cows, you know, create biodiversity and stuff like that. So what's your take on that?
So as with a lot of questions, it's neither, and both. So I firmly believe we should be, you know, taking on this style of agriculture called regenerative agriculture or permaculture. You know, I also am very strong, just because of my vegan bent, with the plants and growing trees primarily, because they're going to sequester more carbon, create more oxygen. You know, they get larger every year. You know, it's a resource for the future for years and years and years in a variety of ways. But yes, you can use animals to particularly ruminants like cows, to revitalize grasslands. And they're actually, it's one of the ways we can most quickly heal a lot of the desertification of the earth. It just has to be done correctly. We've been doing overgrazing style of animal agriculture that just totally destroys the land, and the animals, you know, poop so much on it. It creates a ton of methane, and it creates a bunch of toxicity, you know, and especially, you know, in industrial feedlots where the animals are being fed corn, soy, and other subsidized foods that are sprayed and all that. It's terrible all the way down. But if you're talking about cows, you know, in grassland, they really can enrich and revitalize grasslands very quickly. Definitely, I would suggest people check out the movie Touch the Earth. I think that's what it's called. Yeah, Touch the Earth on Netflix. And they go into the importance of changing to vegan diets, you know, for the health of humans and the health of the world, but also the importance and place that animal agriculture can, you know, even if we're not eating, I feel like it's something that I, you know, would also, like I was telling you before, like to see the other human beings moving into the space of thought I'm in. I would like to see people moving away from consumption of animals. You know, I feel like they're our family, and, you know, but plants are our family too, you know. But whatever the case, it's more gentle to ourselves and to our brothers and sisters that live here, the animals. But we could even still use cattle and other ruminants to reestablish grasslands, which will sequester tons of carbon and stop with, you know, erosion problems, and just revitalize. I would like to revitalize forests across the world. There's quite a few people who are doing this now, who are creating, you know, rehabilitating large tracts of land. There's in the lowest plateau of China, which was their cradle of civilization, it was totally denuded from livestock overgrazing. And what they've done is they created, with money from, I think it was the World Health, I forget which organization, but China and the larger organization got money together and they created rainwater harvesting and did a big tree planting and seeding program across this area that was the size of Belgium. And they totally rehabilitated it from basically a desert to a forest with flowing rivers and streams full of food and trees and wildlife. So I feel the worst thing that we're doing right now is tillage and spraying, chemical spraying. And then also what's really terrible is in this industrial style in which we raise animals. But we could switch over to this regenerative style and reestablish grasslands and forests and bioremediate all the damage we've done, sequester carbon, bioremediate all the point source pollutants with medicinal fungi, or with fungi and all manner of things, create natural farming, microorganisms, and that's another key thing, like sort of on the breatharian path, grounding and stuff. If you're touching natural earth, you're absorbing microorganisms through your skin. You're getting probiotic, and nutrient through your skin. So it doesn't all have to come through here, and you actually absorb more through your skin than you do what comes through your mouth.
Wow.
So.
Okay, very interesting. Okay, guys, so before we wrap it up, do you have any more questions? If not, then we are going to finish really, really soon.
No, it's not a question. I just wanted to say that it was very interesting that you shared your story about a relationship with food, because I do agree it's much more than food, is much more than nutrition. We have a relationship, we're attached,
It's our family. The plants are our family, the trees, the animals, it's our family. And our breath, if we're going to become breatharians, they did this experiment where they put a hamster in, it was very cruel, in a glass sealed cage and put it on a treadmill, and it died very shortly. But if you just put one plant in there, it could go and go and go and go for hours, days,
Wow.
They had to open it and water the plant, so it's very key that we heal, if we do move to to breatharianism, and we're not consuming things, we still are going to need air, so
I have to make sure it is clean.
yes.
Yeah, thank you for all your insights, sharing all your insights, and I really enjoyed listening to you.
Absolutely. Okay, Jess, so we are going to wrap it up soon. Just let us know a little bit about first of all, about your company. Second of all, about different services that you might provide to people, help on their journey, whatever feels right to you in this realm.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you for that, Arik. Sure. I work with a superfood company, and we're established both in Europe and in the States. And it's a company called Purium. The man who started the company did it alongside Ann Wigmore. She was one of the first raw foodists and people who started using wheatgrass and was healing people with all kinds of things that you're not supposed to heal from, cancer and all this kind of stuff. And he developed a lot of these superfood juices in combination with her, I forget the name of her clinic, but with her clinics. He was also one of the people that started the organic standards for the world, because he was just a hardcore hippie in Northern California who wanted to make sure it was kept organic. And they grow their fields. I think it's at least 80 miles away from anywhere that's spraying, because a lot of especially here in the States, a lot of the farms are downwind, downstream. So these are all alkalizing, everything we were talking about on this call. It's all conducive to the pranic lifestyle, tonic, medicinal, mushrooms, superfoods like alfalfa, spirulina, wheatgrass, berries, all these things are grown on their fields and then immediately juiced and dried in such a way that maintains their enzymatic and nutrient content. So, and it's a way that people can do juicing simplistically, because sometimes it's a bother to pull out the juicer and wash out the veg, run it through the juicer and clean the juicer, in our busy lifestyles. So if I can, and we offer a 30-day cleanse that's it's the only cleanse out there that's shown clinically to take glyphosate out of the body, which, if you're not familiar with glyphosate, it was Agent Orange. It's an antibiotic that destroys the microbiome of the soil. So plants, it's an insecticide, an herbicide, so that, Monsanto's Roundup Ready plants can just take their chemical agriculture feed and not have to do the natural process of absorbing it from the soil. So if you're interested in, also this whole idea of anything you can do 90 to 90 days can become a lifestyle. So I offer that, and I offer my health coaching alongside of that if you decide to do one of those cleanses. I also do health coaching by the hour for $50 an hour. If you'd like to arrange a private call to address your individual concerns, we can arrange something. And we also sell tinctures and salves and things that from wild herbs that we've gathered from the forest and make into medicines to help. Herbs have been a massive part of this path for me in healing. And I think it's an important one, as we go forward, learning to get away from them, that, there's certain things that are of higher benefit and things that are of lower benefit. And so I'm just seeking to bring the highest benefit to my community, to you all, and, help make this transformation on the planet. And they do regenerative agriculture. So that's my little pitch.
Amazing. Okay, Jess, so thank you so much. We will put we'll put all the contact details and all the information about your products below the video. Meanwhile, have a blessed day.
Thank you, Arik. Thank you so much for having me. Great to see you, everyone. Appreciate you all.
Thank you so much for your wisdom. Thank you so much. Bye-bye. Bye, guys. Bye.
Have a great
blessed
day,
everyone.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye-bye.